In today's video, we're going to be tracking multiple upcoming snowstorms, even more than we saw in yesterday's video. Also, extreme cold air on the way, potential for an appearance of the polar vortex for the first time in years. There's a whole lot to go over, so we're just going to take a look at our current conditions real quickly. And already this action-packed video is getting started in a big way. We could see a major storm system here in between Nebraska and South Dakota there. This is bringing heavy snowfall to the northwest and the north central portions of the United States. And then we see a lot of severe weather, unfortunately, happening in the bottom of our nation here in the deeper south. And we can see multiple confirmed tornadoes taking place as this appears to be potentially a tornado outbreak taking place in the deep south, unfortunately. Now, we're going to zoom into all these areas. I want to mention real quickly that all morning we have been tracking storms in our Facebook group, Weather Freaks, all these snowstorms that potentially could be taking place here in the Northeast. So we're going to be tracking those continuously over the coming days in that group. So you can join that by clicking on the pinned comment or the description. There's a link for Weather Freaks, and you can join that today and be a part of the discussion. I highly recommend it. But as always, we will be going over it every day on the YouTube channel, so you can feel free to just do that as well. Real quickly, we'll zoom in here and take a look at this snowfall because we can see plenty of it taking place across many different states. We can see the swirl in this low as it is extremely strong at this point. Most of this snowfall is moderate at most, I would say. There is some heavier pockets up here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, though. We move southward and we see mostly showery activity happening here on the northern end of things. It's as we move into the deeper south here where, unfortunately, there is a major tornado event taking place in here. Multiple confirmed tornadoes happening already, and in the most recent 10 to 15, maybe even 30 minutes, we can see an explosion of tornado warnings taking place here in Louisiana and Mississippi. And unfortunately, this is just looking terrible at this point, in my opinion, and it's pretty obvious at this point. So I don't think it's just my opinion. I think it just obviously is a terrible, terrible thing. We're obviously hoping that nobody is hurt, that there's obviously no loss of life or damage to property. We're really hoping for the best down there in the deeper south here. Now we can see that even outside of those tornadic areas, there's plenty of thunderstorm activity happening here across most of the deeper south here. So a big thunderstorm day in general down there for the deeper south. We could also see a low here bringing some showery activity towards Maine here, but that is practically coming to an end at this point. Now what we're going to do is we are going to move on and we're going to take a look at the upcoming model guidance where we'll dive into the upcoming snowstorms and the potential for that polar vortex to make an appearance. All of that is coming up in just a moment. Now here we are taking a look at that European model, and as we can see there's this severe weather right here, and that's actually a couple of hours ago, so we'll move this forward. This is probably about right now where we see this thunderstorm activity taking place in the deeper south, and we can see that this is going to continue on into tonight, into tomorrow actually. A lot of this thunderstorm activity for the southeast for Thursday and Friday here. The snowfall will also continue up there in the north central United States, so we'll keep that in mind as well. And this is a very interesting point in the model run because we see this major snowfall still taking place up there in the upper Midwest. This thunderstorm activity underneath here for the southeast. But as we zoom in to the northeast of our nation here, we can see we're starting out with some freezing rain here, but a major, major snowstorm with 1 to 2 feet of snowfall is going to get started here. Starting already on Thursday into Friday, we see a lot of that freezing rain actually switches over to some snowfall for Pennsylvania, New York, northern New Jersey as well. All of these areas switching over to moderate to heavy snowfall by Thursday evening into Friday morning. That's the 15th into the 16th here, coming up in just a couple of days. Now, by Friday the 16th, the morning hour, we could see that a lot of New England is starting to get involved with this as well, as we have our low offshore of the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast here. This is just the perfect location for snowfall to take place up here. We see Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine all seeing moderate to heavy snowfall at this point. As we just move this forward a couple of hours, we can see this low eventually comes on shore to near Providence, Rhode Island there. And this is still bringing moderate to heavy snowfall to a lot of New England and New York there, especially in our mountainous regions as well. Let's continue this on, and we see it continues on snowing all the way through into Saturday. And even into Sunday, we will see some of that snowfall showers still taking place here. Now let's take a look at that total snowfall real quickly, and we'll just take a look at this. But Obviously, very, very high amounts of snowfall here. Your grays are dusting, if anything. Blues, 2 to 6 inches. Purple, 6 to 10. Pinks will be 10 to 20. And then your pastel blues there that we see for a lot of our mountainous regions in the New York, in the Northeast, not in the New York. I guess in the New York, but also the surrounding Northeast states. They're like the Adirondacks, the Catskills, the Green Mountains, the Berkshires, the White Mountains, and even the mountainous regions of northern Maine there, all seeing near or above 2 feet of snowfall potentially with this storm. So clearly a very major northeast snowstorm about to take place imminently. Now, let's take a look here back at our entire United States and walk through the rest of this model, because this is not it. Okay, don't be confused here. We have more on the way. As we continue things on, we're watching this area here because on this particular model run, this slides away innocently, but we do have the potential here for this to stall out and move up the coast and combine with this storm we see up here in the northwest. If this does take place, I'll show you guys later, but there's the potential for a Boxing Day type snowstorm that we saw in 2010. A snowstorm on par with that snowstorm, a very similar storm, could take place if we see the proper setup here, which on this particular model run we actually do not. That storm here, as you can see, slides off, and then we start to see this low here bring a cold front underneath, so we see snowfall on the back end and rainfall on the front end here. We'll take a look at the east in general, since this is where this storm is headed, and we'll really just take a big deep dive into this. But again, we still see snowfall on the back end, rainfall on the front end. That's pretty obvious here with this storm. It's just a cold front here. That's going to be mostly for Thursday the 22nd and Friday the 23rd. And we're taking this with a grain of salt, but things start to get intense here by the time we're reaching Friday morning. And then eventually we see a low developing here near the mid-Atlantic, and this is just going to move up here. Actually, you know what? It's more going to do this. It's going to cut in to New England. So we'll see this take place, and we're going to start to see very heavy snowfall here. At this point, we could zoom into the northeast actually to get a more zoomed-in look. We could see the whole storm here. Very heavy snowfall for a lot of these areas, and this is going to be another big hitting snowstorm as we see it over Connecticut at this point. It cuts in clearly from here, so it kind of just does this. But if this storm happened to be able to move offshore of the northeast for the most part, we would see a much bigger snowstorm here for a lot of our northeast regions with this particular solution. And we don't even get to the end of this snowstorm actually, because it moves up into central New Hampshire at hours 2:40, which is the end of our model run. So take it with a grain of salt. But this time period seems very favorable for snowfall to take place. And actually, as we take a look at the 3-day snowfall here, we can see, again, 1 to 2 feet of snowfall for the northeast with this particular snowstorm as well. So another very similar snowstorm, if not more intense, because it's only halfway done by this point. So definitely another huge snowstorm potentially on its way. And actually what I want to do here is we are going to switch back to our eastern view here. We're going to switch back to this, and we're going to switch to our GFS model here real quickly. I want to show you what it showed last night, because what it showed last night was truly incredible. And it was only one model run, so we're taking it with a grain of salt. But we see it move up. What we see happen is, just like I mentioned, look at this piece of energy here. Stalling out offshore of the southeast, we have this other piece of energy meeting up with it. And what happens is something truly magical as we see these two pieces of energy really come together here, as you can see. And we start to see more of a Miller A nor'easter type solution with heavy snowfall starting out from Virginia, North Carolina, the Delmarva, up through Maryland and DC as well. And we see this really move up the coast, just like the Boxing Day blizzard. So we see primarily these areas seeing snowfall with this solution. And then it comes to an end. But I want to show you the total snowfall if this type of a solution was to take place. We'll even take a look here at the 4-day total snowfall here. As you can see, potential for 6 to 10, even 10 to 20 inches here throughout a lot of our East Coast if yesterday's GFS model run solution was correct, which there's no telling if it will be or won't be, but I'm just saying that the potential is there with that southern piece of energy that moves up like this, and that kind of western piece of energy that moves in and combines with it as well. If that takes place just like that, we have the potential for a more coastal snowstorm in the near future as well, just before Christmas. And yes, this would mean potentially a white Christmas for all of these areas right here, according to the GFS model, which you're going to want to take with a grain of salt compared to the European model even, because this model is a little bit more skeptical In my opinion, it's a little bit less reliable. But there is the potential for many areas to see a pre-Christmas major snowstorm, and that is an exciting prospect. We will be tracking this every single day on the YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe as we do upload every single day, and we will track this and get to the bottom of it. Now, our total precipitation across the nation over the next 10 days looks something like this. Very high amounts in the east, as you can see, and also very high amounts in the northwest. In the whites, pretty much no precipitation. Your grays, 1/10 of an inch or less. Greens, 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Blues, 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows, 1 inch to 2 inches. And then your reds are going to be 2 to 5 inches of precipitation. And then the browns will be 5 inches plus. We see, again, primarily the northwest and the east seeing most of that activity. Now, the total snowfall through the next 10 days, we've already gone over the amounts multiple times, so I'm not really going to do it, but we do see that all the northern areas of the United States, according to the European model, see a ton of snowfall, and this is through the end of the 23rd of December, so we don't get the 4th or the 25th, the 24th or the 25th, but we can see nothing south of this area is really seeing much of anything as of now. Now, the temperature pattern, we're going to go according to our European ensemble model, because it's going to be much more reliable than your deterministic European model. We have 50 different members here in our European ensemble, and that is going to give us the opinion of all of those combined for a mean average, and that's going to be much more reliable looking long range. Would you rather get one opinion or 50 opinions when thinking about something like this? Just think to yourself about that real quickly. That's really crucial. We see our cold front moves through by the time we're reaching Friday into Saturday, and we start to see cold air moving into the east. That gets even colder by the time we're reaching about Sunday here, Sunday the 18th, as we get these greens popping up. That's going to be 10 to 15 degrees below normal, and things only get colder from here as we see our potential for polar vortex, first appearance in years, probably the coldest model run I have seen since 2013 to 2014 or 2014 to 2015 here. This is the coldest potential for weather that I have seen in so long. This is for Monday, the 19th here of December. And polar vortex has a potential appearance coming up. We can see coming in from Canada, coming in from the northwest, and this really enters into the United States by the time we're reaching about Friday the 23rd, right around when that snowstorm would be entering in. We see extreme cold temperatures in here. The magentas are going to be 25 to 35 degrees below normal, and this is 222 hours out. And this is 50 different members' opinions combined, which means this is probably averaged out a little bit, and it could be even colder than this according to many of the members, because I'm sure there's some that are showing warmer than this. So this is just the mean average. I mean, consider this. I mean, really, this could be much colder. Very hard to think about and very interesting to say the least. And this just dives into the eastern United States. As time rolls on, it gets more and more averaged out, but we see tons of cold air in the east by the time we're reaching Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, which looks absolutely frigid, by the way, in the east. And look out west. Positive PNA, finally, for the first time in months. Positive PNA makes an appearance and really sends all this cold air into the east. Definitely a best case scenario model run here if you live in the east and if you want cold and snow. This is best case scenario model run. I can't even stress that enough. And we just see this cold continues on. It gets more and more averaged out as time goes on because, again, we have 50 different opinions. And the more time that goes by, the more they spread out, and the mean average becomes much more close to average because there's probably some showing warmth. Clearly, the majority showing cold here, as we do have cold popping up here. But this is 360 hours out. This is all the way through the 29th. And it's evident that the likelihood here is that we're going to see extreme cold on the way. And that pattern should last all the way through the New Year's. Multiple snowstorm opportunities on the way, major snowstorm opportunities at that. This is just what a time to be alive in the weather world here in the East. Very, very excited personally for this pattern. I hope a lot of you are as well. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe and also hit that bell icon for daily notifications when we do upload so you never miss a video. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I will see you guys in the next video.